7 out of 10 of the world's hungry people are farmers. Their hard work and the land they use are returning less than $1 a day. New jobs outside agriculture rarely exceeds 1% per year in low-income countries. Job creation is slow. We need additional strategies to fight hunger. I believe that we are able to allow many of them to invest their way out of poverty. It's a paradox, but stay with me. As a management consultant, I have advised clients on how to increase profit and how to drive growth for most of the last 2 decades. 3 years ago, I joined the Norwegian Church Aid project to find scalable ways of helping people climb out of poverty. So, what are these poor farmers up to? Their favorite crop is maize. The US cereal yields are 10 times that of the African. And a $100 investment into 1 acre of maize typically increased the return 5-fold. But if you're living on $1 or $2 a day, a $100 investment is not affordable. For the few that do invest $100 and do get the manifold return on their harvest, their daily average income still only increase with 50 to 75 cents. And scaling that investment requires a lot of land that we don't have. Their business model must change so that there can be cash on the table after the children have been fed and their school fees have been paid. I think we've seen such an attractive alternative model. Let me introduce you to Mama Elisa. Mama Elisa is a widow with 4 children and 5 grandchildren. I first met her in February last year. She's a lovely, hard-working lady, warm-hearted. She's also one of our customers in Chunia. Look at her. Mama Lisa made less than $2 a day a few months before I met her. That made her belong to the bottom billion of the world's population. But Mama Lisa has escaped poverty. In just 6 months, she grew her income from $2 a day, or less than $2 a day, towards $12 a day. Before we go into details about how she achieved that, let's take a moment to reflect on the significance of her journey. By passing the $10 a day level, her income journeyed from the bottom billion towards that of the upper half of the world's population. Imagine if she can be a front runner. I believe that she and many of her other customers are front runners with millions of potential followers. They're all farmers. They have access to land. In Mama Lisa's case, just a few hundred square meters. They have often access to some water too, and an abundance of sunshine. Add to that her work capacity, which is significant. To make the leap out of poverty, she also needed fertilizer, improved seeds, probably some irrigation equipment to make sure that the income was more steady. All of this had to be affordable. And it had to present her with an attractive profit at a minimal risk. The first concept we came up with that met these criteria was the Veggie Concept, or the veggie bed. Simplicity is beautiful. When I say a veggie bed, I'm talking about an 8 by 1 meter raised, irrigated vegetable bed, approximately the size of the red circle I'm on here. I brought a simple model, or a small model, of the equipment we use, just to showcase its simplicity. There's a 20-liter tank, typically. Basically, they're using whatever tank they already have. Then there's 2 8-meter-long drip lines, and there's a simple clothing on the top, acting as a filter, just to make sure that dirt doesn't enter the system and clogs the pipe. Simplicity is truly beautiful. But this is not enough. She also needs fertilizer. If you have one of these beds and you buy one bag of fertilizer in the typical size, one of these bags will not only be enough for 4 seasons this year, but 4 seasons, 8 years in a row. Imagine what that does to affordability. We have similar issues with the drip line. They also come in big rolls, and even worse, they're typically not even available. So, what we did in the pilot project with the Norwegian Church Aid is that we micro-packaged this into just what they needed to start with 1, 2, or how many they could afford of these veggie beds. We sold them at $7, which is not only covering our cost, but which is also giving a reasonable profit to the local salesperson. Mama Lisa is only one, but she is not the only one. We have many customers like her. And our sales team, initially only a few people growing to an average of 10 during the first year of piloting, were able to sell more than 10,000 veggie kits through a few hundred villages in year 1 with quite limited resources. I believe, and I think I have fact to prove it, these can develop or transform into a set of locally sustainable businesses, where the agronomists and other people working on these projects earn their salaries from value creation starting with the farmer. But having a financially sustainable rollout team is not sufficient. We need to know that this scales well for the farmer, it needs to scale well in the village, and it needs to scale well beyond the village. We already seen with Mama Lisa that it scales well with the farmer. She can buy 1, 2, depending on how many she's capable of. In Mama Lisa's case, she first invested $28 into 4 veggie kits. And in just 3 months, she gained a return of more than $500 US. It finally started to show that her hard work, it made a difference. She also reinvested about $60, short of $60, into another 8 veggie kits. And in 6 months, that allowed her to establish a $12 income per day on average. All this was then scalable on the village level, because not only her, but many of the people in her village were able to sell, and the local market absorbed it all at reasonable price levels. But I'm quite confident that down the road, we will need to connect these farmers with consumer goods companies and other off-takers to make sure that supply and demand can meet at a reasonable price level. Africa is already a net food importer. And as many of you probably know, we were expecting Africa to more than double in size in a few decades. More than 1 billion people will be added. The market will be there, but it's not without challenges. As a positive side note, climate effect from using just a tiny fraction of the land compared with staple crops could deserve a separate talk. There are many challenges engaging smallholder farmers as micro-investors. But I am confident that this points towards a more attractive approach, where these smallholders and micro-investors' resourcefulness is appreciated, and we see their key role. Knowledge and technology can be packaged into proven concepts that totally change the local profit level. These kits can be sold as affordable, scalable micro-investments with quick payback. And as the number of micro-investors grow, and some of them graduate from micro-investments towards small investments and beyond, it will become increasingly profitable to serve them. The first steps out of poverty are the hardest. Through this micro-investment approach, many can join Mama Lisa's path, from living on less than $2 a day, passing the $10 a day level, towards joining the upper half of the world's population. Thank you.